Welcome back. The show is called Brand Equity and I'm Sonali Krishna. Now, Johnston, the global digital leader of Mindshare, was on his India visit recently to look at the possibility of making Mumbai Mindshare the hub for all mobile marketing practices and innovations globally. I caught up with Norm to chat about this and chat about all the other radical moves in the virtual world and how they should be interpreted. Thank you so much for joining us, Norm. Truly a pleasure to have you on Brand Equity.
Thank you for having me. Pleasure to be here. Thank you very much.
What brings you to India?
I'm here specifically to talk about mobile with our team. We've got a great team here doing some really good work in the mobile space, and we want to leverage that throughout the rest of the network. So we're specifically talking about how we do that. The idea for us is to have a place where research and best practice and the processes and the thought leadership emanates from.
Okay.
So one part of it's that, and the second part of it is production.
Okay.
So how do we use Mumbai? We've got great quality talent here. It's much more cost effective than doing it in downtown London, I can tell you that much. So how do we tap into that on a range of different applications, iAds, WAP sites, whatever the case may be. So it's using them both from sort of a thought leadership perspective and best practice perspective, but also from just purely just producing more things for our clients.
So moving to Google and the latest acquisition in Zagat.
Yeah.
And they've always been talking about going local.
Yes.
Now with Zagat, do you actually think this is going to be the game changer? Because till date, before this acquisition, Google has really been an aggregator of content, and this really gives them access to some professional content of their own.
I don't think it's a game changer. I think it's another element that adds to the depth that they'll have locally, which, getting back to the sort of Facebook, Google wars, I think having that local element down to your social graph embedded into things like search results, I think is quite critical. But I don't necessarily think it's a game changer. I mean, I think that the missed opportunity for them was Groupon. I mean, because when you look at the Groupon model, this is a company that had actual physical salespeople locally everywhere. And that's one of the things that I think they're really missing at the moment is the ability to connect. They do a very good job with us, and they do a great job with big brands, but when it comes to smaller businesses and connecting them into things like Google search, that is, I think, the big opportunity for them.
Moving to yet another unexpected move. I'm talking about AOL, Yahoo, and Microsoft deciding to come together and partner to sell each other's online display inventory. I mean, really, the move is a path-breaking move for all these three players to come together. But more importantly, so it's really big. It puts Google's position in a little bit of jeopardy. Would you agree?
I would agree. I think all three of them are what is their USP and what is their positioning vis-a-vis the folks that get all the attention these days, which would be primarily Facebook and Google. Their fear is the Google Display Network. Yeah. So Google's already dominating search. Bing's slowly, year by year taking a few percentage points of the share from them, but it's a big struggle. They dominate online video with YouTube. The trifecta is they suddenly now dominate the display business, which they don't at the moment. And I think it's really an effort by the three of them to combine forces to really combat that and come up with a proposition that's more compelling than what Google can offer. I don't think it's fully baked yet. That's from my discussions, I don't think they've really fully figured out exactly how that's going to work. So it's probably more of a theory than a reality at the moment.
Talking about Yahoo, and after this whole escapade with their CEO getting fired, I mean, she's being looked at latest victim, in this very, very competitive landscape. What is next for Yahoo?
It's bizarre because they have 750 million users worldwide. I mean, it's this massive network that people go to on a regular basis and consume content. And they've done wonderful deals with ABC News and Eurosport and so on and so forth. But that's just not good enough. It's not compelling enough. And it's the Twitters and which is much smaller, but they get the magazine covers and the attention because it's new and it's different. If you look at Yahoo, they still have a lot to offer there, and I think with some of the plans they have of weaving in the social graph into the content, I think that's quite compelling, particularly for those who are looking for incremental reach off of earned media from paid media. And then what they're up to in the iPad space and the tablet space of creating new ways of presenting their content, new branding around that. And I'm being cautious because I'm not sure it's public yet. I think that will be quite compelling as well. So don't count them out. They still have, I think the battle is for more of share of mind than anything else, of just telling their story better perhaps than they have historically. And Carol Bartz, that wasn't necessarily her strength. So they have a wonderful back end. I mean, they can talk endlessly about the back end system in HTML5 and the ability to deploy content and hundreds of different variations to mobile phones and tablets, but that in itself is not going to necessarily get them more advertising revenue.
Talking about the great social debate,
right.
The global versus local Facebook page,
Yep.
What's your view, global or local?
My view is local. So if you look at all the data, we've got lots of data on this, what you'll see is you don't get the volume, obviously. So if you've got a big global page, you're going to get millions and millions of people on it. So you may get a few less, although in India it could be millions and millions. But what you find is the engagement time is much higher. People spend more time there, and you can't underestimate the relevancy, particularly in places like Facebook, of local things that are happening and local communication and local offers, whatever the case may be. So our advice is go local. Now, not every brand can do that.
Okay, and then each country manages its own local page. So where is the uniformity then?
Well, it's a good question because I mean this whole Facebook explosion is, I mean, it is 1997 all over again, and I've been in the business since 95. It's a mess. It's an absolute mess. And I remember the days when companies would come to me and they say, well, we've got all these brand websites all over the place, and they don't look alike, and everybody's redeveloping the content, and we can't measure any of it. And there's a couple of years there where people got that fixed. And it's the same thing with Facebook. It's just a mess. So getting your social content management system in place so you can manage your social footprint across places like Facebook, you can measure it. If somebody produces content in India, someone in the US could leverage that content if indeed they think that's relevant. These are all really critical components, and I think really only a few brands are getting their heads around that right now. But I think it is critical because it just keeps growing. So the problem gets worse and worse. And it isn't just Facebook, it's how do you then manage Twitter?
Yeah.
And I talk to these clients and you start talking about this expanded ecosystem and they look at you and think, how in the heck are we going to really afford all this stuff? How you're talking about all this content, where do we produce it? And so helping them to understand the technology they need, centers of excellence and places that we can go to where we can get content produced at scale, cost effectively and to high quality. Those are all critical elements of helping them to sort of navigate this new very complex world that we live in.
Lovely meeting you, Norm.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for having me. Pleasure.
She raised a lot of eyebrows when she decided to start a media auditing firm 8 years ago. But 8 years and still going strong, Meenakshi Menon, founder of Spatial Access, has decided to go international with her media auditing services and is looking at markets such as Indonesia, Philippines and Thailand. Saki Deshpande gets you the story.
It was not a very long time ago when media auditing was a rather alien and unaccepted concept in India. And when it did make its debut, the fear of introducing some sort of a pesky intervention of the auditor in a business that's not so transparent made almost all media professionals wary. In the middle of so much apprehension and resentment, Meenakshi Menon launched Spatial Access Solutions. 8 years down the line, with a client portfolio that includes the likes of PepsiCo, ICICI, Hindustan Petroleum, to name a few, Spatial Access has decided to undergo a revamp that also includes the unveiling of their new logo. But more importantly, go international. Here's why.
We have grown within India, and our clients are the ones who are saying to us, can't you offer us these same services in other markets? And therefore we are responding to our client needs by moving out into markets where they have their businesses. Our earlier logo was an arrowhead, very defined. Okay, but today the business that we are in is very, very fluid and flexible. So which is why our new logo defines the new reality, the reality of fluidity and flexibility.
Spatial Access is now setting shop in countries like Indonesia, Thailand and Philippines. But has enough been done in the Indian market? And is there enough demand for media auditing in these markets, especially for an Indian firm?
We don't have any competition in India and we don't have any competition internationally as well, because we're the only company of its kind in the world that provides all these services under one roof in an integrated fashion. Okay, if you look at the global market, there are media audit firms and there are different firms who do production audits. There is no one firm that does media and production together under the same roof.
Ambitious, no doubt, but Meenakshi is determined to create the first Indian transnational in the media auditing space.
Time to take a short breather, but you stay right there. As coming up, we get you all you need to know about Ad Asia 2011. Stay with us.